She danced until her feet were nothing but raw, exposed bone. 400 victims, no music, just the sound of hearts exploding. The city didn't try to save them. They built a stage, hired musicians, and forced the dying to dance faster. Welcome to the 1518 Dancing Plague, the most lethal party in human history.
Broken fingernails clawing at frozen mud, mouths crammed with cold black dirt. In 1518, Strasbourg wasn't just starving, it was decomposing alive. The only bread left was a black, oily rot. Ergot, a chemical fire that turned nerves into scorched wires. It made skin feel like it was being flayed by red-hot pincers. It didn't just poison the body, it flooded the mind with a jagged, violent hell. Frau Troffea was the trigger. She didn't walk into the street, she was launched. A sickening crack of her neck, then the whip of arms hitting stone until knuckles shattered. No music, just ragged gasps and the wet, rhythmic thwack of bare meat hitting filth. Day 3. The soles of her feet gone. She was dancing on raw, purple muscle. Every leap sprayed dark blood onto the cobblestones. Every step ground white bone against rock. A dry scratching sound that made onlookers gag. Eyes rolled back, only pulsing whites visible. A body hijacked. Then the blacksmith. He watched the blood, his jaw twitching to a mechanical beat. He dropped his iron hammer and let out a subhuman howl. He kicked the air with such force that his tendons snapped like dry wood. He didn't fall. He kept moving. By the week's end, 34 people were in the street. A human meat grinder of convulsing limbs and exploding hearts. They weren't dancing for a god. They were being murdered by their own movement.
The Horse Market, July 1518. The sun is a white, punishing disc. In the center of the square, a massive wooden stage stands like a scaffold. This was the city's cure. The magistrates didn't provide doctors. They provided musicians. The music starts. A frantic screeching wall of pipes and the relentless pounding thud of skin drums. It is a festival for the dying. Look at the stage. Over 100 people are trapped in a biological nightmare. They aren't dancing, they are convulsing. Their muscles are locked in a permanent, agonizing cramp. Every time the drum hits, a man's leg kicks out with such force that the hip joint audible pops. A woman collapses, her heart finally giving out under the heat. But the music never stops. The city guards move in. They don't carry medicine. They carry pikes. They use the wooden shafts to shove the exhausted back into the center. They grab a young girl by her bruised arms and haul her back to her feet, her head lolling like a broken doll. Her ankles are swollen, purple sacs of fluid, yet the rhythm forces her to stomp until the skin splits open. The air is thick. It smells of unwashed bodies, sour sweat, and the sharp iron tang of fresh blood heating up on the wooden planks. Above them, on the high stone balconies, the magistrates watch. They sip wine and wait for the hot blood to burn out. They are not watching a miracle. They are presiding over a state-sponsored massacre where the only weapon is a flute and a drum.
The city of Strasbourg was at a breaking point, but the leaders, the magistrates, and the priests didn't see a medical crisis. They saw a religious one. They looked at the bleeding feet and the snapping tendons and decided that this was hot blood. Their solution wasn't rest or medicine. It was more movement. In a move of pure bureaucratic madness, the city council ordered the construction of a massive wooden stage in the center of the horse market. They didn't stop there. They hired professional musicians, pipers and drummers to play loud, relentless, frantic rhythms 24 hours a day. They believed that if the victims danced faster, they would burn the sickness out of their systems. This turned the city square into a state-sponsored slaughterhouse. The musicians played, and the victims, now numbering over 100, were forced to keep pace. When a woman collapsed from a stroke, she was dragged back to her feet by city guards. When a man's heart began to fail, the drummers hit the skins harder, forcing his legs to kick until the muscle literally tore away from the bone. The air was no longer filled with prayer. It was filled with the sound of heavy, agonizing gasps, the screeching of pipes, and the constant, wet crunch of shattered ankles hitting the wooden planks. The authorities sat on their high balconies, watching the carnage like a theatre performance, waiting for the cure to work.
August 1518. The wooden stage is soaked in blood, and 15 people are dying every day. The city's cure has failed. Now the authorities try one last desperate act of superstition. They declare these people cursed by Saint Vitus. They drag the survivors out of the city toward a damp, dark shrine in the mountains. Look at their feet! The priests force them into bright red, heavy leather shoes, a cruel irony to honor the saint. These shoes aren't a gift. They are shackles. The procession is a crawl of ghosts. Priests in soot-stained robes hold heavy, jagged wooden crosses, screaming prayers over the rhythmic gasps of the dying. There is no music now, only the sound of iron-shod wheels and the wet dragging of limbs through the mountain mud. Inside the cave, it is dark and freezing. They are forced to circle a cold stone altar. One by one, their hearts burst. One by one, the dancing stops. Not because they are cured, but because the human machine has finally, mercifully, broken.
September 1518. The music has finally stopped. Not because the hot blood was cured, but because there was no one left to dance. The city of Strasbourg is silent, breathing in the stench of decay and failed superstition. The great wooden stage in the horse market is being torn down. It's no longer a cure. It's an embarrassment. Workers in sweat-stained tunics pry up the planks, revealing the dark, dried blood that has soaked deep into the grain. They don't speak. They just want the memory gone. Look at the few who survived. They aren't healed. They sit against the cold stone walls of the cathedral, their limbs still twitching with permanent neurological damage. Their feet are mutilated stumps, the skin a map of purple scars and black, necrotic holes where toes used to be. The bright red shoes are gone, thrown into the gutters like trash. The magistrates quietly burn the records of the musicians they hired. They want the world to forget that for 2 months, they turned a city into a slaughterhouse. But the stones of Strasbourg remember. The dancing plague didn't end with a miracle. It ended when the human spirit simply ran out of blood to spill.
September 1518. The music has finally stopped. Not because the hot blood was cured, but because the human machines simply ran out of blood to spill. Strasbourg is silent now, but it is a heavy, suffocating silence. The great wooden stage in the horse market, once a platform for state-sponsored murder, is being torn down. Look at the workers. They pry up the splintered planks with iron crowbars, exposing the dark, crusty stains of dried blood and bile that have soaked inches deep into the wood. They work in a hurry, avoiding each other's eyes. The city is trying to dismantle its shame. In the shadows of the cathedral, a few ghosts remain. These are the survivors. Quote, "They don't dance anymore, but their limbs still twitch with a rhythmic, permanent tremor, a neurological scar that will never heal. Their feet are mutilated stumps of scar tissue and blackened skin, where toes were lost to the cold of the cave and the friction of the red shoes." The magistrates, the men who watched from the balconies, now reach for the records. They burn the ledger of the musicians' wages. They strike the names of the dead from the official rolls. They want the world to forget that for 2 weeks, they turned their city into a slaughterhouse of flutes and drums. But the stones of Strasbourg remember. History isn't written by the winners. It's etched into the broken bones and the mud-caked red leather left in the gutters. The dancing didn't end with a miracle. It ended with a whimper in the dark.